Hi there, and welcome to another session here with Mr. Hegarty. Thanks so much, guys, for joining. It's always a pleasure at 2 o'clock to do the lessons, and it's lovely to see so many of you positive and really kind in the live chat, which is ace. I hope you guys are all well. I'm well over here in London. We got a really kind message to Hegarty Maths this morning from a student who uses it a lot and find it really helpful, and it just reminded me that how we interact with people and how we conduct ourselves in our lives can really have a positive impact on others. And sometimes a really kind thing to do is say thank you to someone, because it really makes their day. Because I know it made me and Mr. Arnold's day today when we got that message. So just a little shout out there for that message from Lola, who really made us happy today. And just for you guys to think, anyone who's helping you in your life, whether it be your parents, your carers, your brother or sister, or maybe even just the shopkeeper who keeps the shop open so you guys can eat at this time, maybe just say thank you. What a nice thing to do, and you can really make someone's day. Anyway, a couple of things to talk about today. Firstly, we're continuing with distance. So as always, I need your brain and attention. You need a pen and paper. We already heard from Mushi. She's already run through an entire notepad, so she's on plain paper. I think Mushi said that. And a can-do attitude. So we're going to do 3 questions today, all A-level standard. Only 3, because they're actually quite involved. So make sure you've got your wits about you. You've got plenty of paper to write, because some of the workings are quite long. Just before I go into the lesson, just want to tell you what me, Mr. Arnold and Angela have been doing at Hegarty Maths. Remember I said that, some schools are going back on the 1st of June and a lot of schools might be going back on the 15th, and there's going to be a phased introduction of you guys going back. You won't all go back on the same day. Well, we've been trying to plan how to support you when the live lessons have to end, because obviously, my wife's a teacher. She'll have to teach. I'll have to look after the little one. I won't be able to do them anymore. So I'll just show you what we've been doing so far. We've made a calendar. It's not finished yet, but what we'll do is we'll make sure we tell you what to do every single weekday at 2 o'clock for half an hour in June and July. This is going to be the key to success when the live lessons end, and the key to your independence. Like, you guys don't need me to be here, telling you, how my day is and stuff like that. You guys are really able to get on now, and we're going to make sure we look after you. So we're building this. It's not finished, so don't look at it in too much detail, but we will give you one by the end of the week, okay? We will absolutely make sure that you guys, if these sessions end, you guys have a pathway to success for June and July to get ready for your A-levels. So Angela, Mr. Arnold are helping build that out, okay? Right, let's kick off then, and more news on what we'll give you later in the week as Mr. Arnold and Angela finish it. Do you remember yesterday we learnt distance? And basically we just said it's Pythagoras, right? We said there's this complicated distance formula, but we basically said it's Pythagoras. To work out the distance between 2 points, all you do is you take the x's away, you take the y's away, you square those numbers, and you square root. Okay, so we're going to continue with that knowledge. Other than today, we're going to use all our previous knowledge about gradient, midpoint, you name it. We're going to do so much extra work today because these are quite tricky exam questions. So let's kick off. The first one's not too bad, but the second 2 are pretty nasty and definitely are bad boys, in my opinion. So here we go. The line joining the point 4, -7 to the point 10k has a gradient of 7/3. Find the exact length of AB. Now, what you guys have got to do in your head, you've got to think to yourself, look, I can't find the length of AB if one of these coordinates is a letter. I'm going to need to try and find the value of K. But thankfully, we've been told the gradient and we've got 2 points, so we can use the gradient formula. Remember, the formula for the gradient M is the difference in Y's divided by the difference in X's. And we've got 2 sets of coordinates here. We've got A is 4, -7, and we've got B is 10k, right? So we've got to figure out that k. So if we use the gradient formula, the gradient is 7/3, so we can write 7/3 is equal to the difference in y. So let's do -7 take away k. So we could have -7 subtract k divided by 4 take away 10. Got to do it in the same order. 4 take away 10. So 7/3 is therefore equal to negative 7 subtract k over negative 6. Now, you can deal with this negative here if you want. You can multiply top and bottom by negative 1 to get rid of the negatives. You could have 7/3 is 7 add k over 6. So what I'm going to do is, because I've got a fraction on this side, I've got a divide by 3 here, and I've got a divide by 6 here. In one move, I can multiply both sides by 18, right? So if I multiply both sides by 18, or you can think of it as cross multiplying, this side ends up getting, the top ends up getting multiplied by 6. This top ends up getting multiplied by 3 when you do that. You get 7 multiplied by 6 is equal to 3 multiplied by 7 add k. So we get ourselves 42 is equal to, if we multiply this out, 21 add 3k. Take 21 off both sides. 3k is therefore equal to 21. Divide both sides by 3, write it the other way around. I get k is equal to 7. Now, wow, that was a lot of algebra, and all we got is k is equal to 7. But actually, we needed that because we can't work out the length unless we know the value of k. So I'm going to rewrite my xy here. It's 4 negative 7 for sure, but now b is 10, k, and k is 7. So I could write that as 10, 7, like that. And this is the bit where you can actually work out the length of AB. The length of AB, remember when we did this, we said we'd take away these coordinates from each other and square those numbers. So do 4 take away 10 is negative 6. Negative 7 subtract another 7 is negative 14. So to work out the length, it's the square root of this number squared and this number squared. It's just Pythagoras. And that would give us the square root of, you're actually allowed to use a calculator for these questions, the square root of 232. And if you type that in your calculator will automatically simplify it for you. This would come up in a calculator paper. This would give you 2 root 58. So some of you already got that. Resurrection of Mars got that. Rory got that. Ali D got that. Ethan G got that. And that is how you do it. So how is it different from yesterday? Well, it's different from yesterday because we have to do a piece of work on the gradient first to work out the value of k. Once we've done that hard work, we've got a pair of coordinates with all numbers in it, and we can just apply the distance formula. So that's why this is more exam standard, because it uses the topic of gradient and the topic of distance of a line segment, and it matches them in together with a fair bit of algebra for good measure. Right, it's over to you now. I believe you guys can do it. Remember step 1, use the gradient formula to figure out k. Then once you've got k, you're in happy territory. You can work out the length of AB using the normal distance formula. We did all that yesterday. We nailed it, and I know you can do it. Here you go. Over to you. Annabelle G, you didn't know we were doing them this week. It's all right, Annabelle, they're all recorded. Remember, Mr. Arnold will post the playlist link at the end, so you can catch up yesterday. It's not a big deal, don't worry. Oh, we're getting some answers in. Asmo, Daniel, Ethan G, Mariam, Rory. Oh, Branwen, I like your style. I like your use of modulus. I like it. Ashgaran. By the way, people, I don't know if they're right. So I like their style. Oh, Charlie S, I like your style. I'll give a bit more time for these questions today, guys. So if some of you have finished, just be checking over. These take much longer to work out than yesterday's. So I'm just going to give a bit extra time, make sure we've got enough people who have done them. Okay, let's have a look at the answers here. Let's see how whether we got the same as each other. A lot of you guys are getting 2 root 106. Let me see. Step 1, double check you got K was 10. Did you guys get K is 10? If you did half of it right. And then when you actually worked out the distance formula, you ended up getting the square root of 424. If you type that in the calculator will simplify that for you. This would be in a calculator question, so you don't have to worry about the simplify. And I got 2 root 106, which a lot of you got. Anyone who's struggling with that, don't worry, these are really tricky now. We're into bad boy territory, right? So don't stress. You can watch the video afterwards. You can have another go. Mr. On's going to post my workings at the end so you can rework anything you want. If you got K is 10, you're halfway there. If you made a slip up after that, don't stress out. You can fix it afterwards. Lashman, I think you can do it. Listen, it's all right to doubt yourself, but I know you can do it. You've been great all the other sessions. Watch afterwards and don't give up. I believe in you, and often with stuff in maths, there's been stuff I never understood at first, but I can do it. I know with hard work I can do it. And Mia Rose, don't worry about people being speedy. Do not worry about that. That's why the sessions are recorded, so you can take them at your own pace afterwards. Right. Pre-warning, the next one is tricky. It's so tricky that I had a debate with Angela this morning, who helps me with these, on the right way of doing it. So they are tricky. Here we go. Let's keep our wits about us, though. Okay, here we go. The points AA and the point B4 are joined by a line segment that has gradient negative a fifth. Then it says, given that the midpoint of AB is at C1, find the exact distance between A and B. So the reason why this is so tricky, guys, is, we've got all sorts going on here. We've got ourselves stuff to do with gradient, stuff to do with midpoint, stuff to do with exact distance. So there's a lot in play. Just while I'm brainstorming, I like to draw myself a little picture to get my wits about me and make sure I put the information in the question in the picture. It tells us we've got this point here, AA. And we've got another point over here, B, which is at B4, right? And it says the gradient of this line segment is negative a fifth. It tells us that. It also says that the midpoint of AB, so the middle point here, is at C1, and this is a midpoint. And it asks us to work out the length of AB. So what we're trying to do is we're going to try and use the distance formula to work out the length of AB. The reason we can't do that off the bat is we've got algebra in here. We've got little a's, we've got b's. We can't use that because it won't give us an exact number for a distance. So that's not going to get us anywhere. We do have the ability to work out the gradient in terms of A and B and make it equal negative a fifth and see if we can figure out A and B. But I'm going to start by using the midpoint. I'll tell you why after, but just bear with me. I'm going to start with the fact they've told us something about the midpoint. They have told us the midpoint is at C1 and we have the two endpoints. So remember from our lesson on midpoint, you can work out the midpoint by taking the average of the x's and the average of the y's. So the midpoint of AB, we could work it out in one way by doing the x's added together, A plus B over 2. That would give you the x midpoint. And then the y's added together, A plus 4 over 2. right? So that's an expression for the midpoint, okay, which is fine. I'm going to actually just move that over there. But in the question, we've actually been told the midpoint is C1. So we know this must be equal to the coordinate C1. Now, the reason this is so helpful, and it's not always obvious to spot this to start with, is I can work out A from this because I know that if two coordinates are equal, the x's must be equal and the y's must be equal. Here, I know that A plus 4 over 2 must equal the number 1. And because it's only got one letter in it, I'm going to be able to work out A. So because I've been told the midpoint and I can work out the midpoint, I get my worked out midpoint, I make it equal to the midpoint I was told in the question, and I spot that there's a nice little juicy equation I can write here. I must be able to say that A plus 4 over 2 must equal 1. The y's must equal each other. I can multiply both sides by 2, and I get the following. And I can take 2 off both sides, and I get myself A is equal to negative 2. Now, this is really helpful because now that I know A is negative 2, I know this coordinate must be negative 2, negative 2. What don't I know? I don't know this B. So I'm not going to be able to work out the length until I figure out B. But I have been told the gradient. So I'm going to go off now and I'm going to use the fact about the gradient that the question has given me. Right? So I've done everything I possibly can from the midpoint. Now I'm going to go over to this gradient and I'm going to say, listen guys, I know the formula for the gradient is the difference in y's over the difference in x's. And at this point, I know that the pair of coordinates are negative 2, negative 2, and I still only know that the other one's B4. So to work out the gradient, I take the y's away from each other. I do negative 2 subtract 4 over the x's taken away from each other, negative 2 subtract b. And by the way, the question told me the gradient. So guys, I know the gradient is also negative a fifth. So am I running out of space here? I'm going to multiply, I'm going to tidy this up and just write negative a fifth is equal to negative 6 over negative 2 subtract b. Now I'm going to actually have to go over here and continue my working. Sorry, it's a lot of working here, so bear with me. I'm going to just go over here and move that up and continue my working over here. I can't go down the page. You should go down the page. So what I'm going to do on this side is I'm going to multiply top and bottom by negative 1 just to tidy that up. So I'm going to say negative a fifth is equal to 6 over b plus 2. Just tidy that up. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 and 5b plus 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5b plus 2. Get this 5 off the bottom and get this b plus 2 off the bottom. So if I do that, I'm going to get negative b plus 2, because that negative 1 stays. And I'm going to get 5 times 6 on the right, which is equal to 30. Times both sides by negative 1, I get b plus 2 is negative 30. And take 2 off both sides, I get b is negative 32. Okay, now I told you this is difficult today, so please bear with me. This is difficult. Now, I have got b is 32. So up here, I know this coordinate here is negative 32, 4. So now I know the number coordinates here for A and the number coordinates for B. I can work out the distance. So I'm going to go over here to a separate line of working, completely separate, but you would go down the page. And I would say we now know A and B. A is negative 2, negative 2. B is equal to negative 32, 4. And if I want to work out the distance as I did yesterday, I take the x's away. Negative 2 subtract 32 is like negative 2 add 32. So I get 30. And negative 2 subtract another 4 is negative 6. So the distance is the square root of these numbers squared. 30 squared add negative 6 squared. The distance is therefore the square root of 936. And if I type that in my calculator, it simplifies up to 6 root 26. Now, that is tricky. In particular, what is tricky about this is we had to use two equations to work out A and B. Also, the cross multiplying here. We haven't covered that together, and I'm just kind of assuming you know that. I don't know if you do know that, but cross multiplying to tidy up when you've got two fractions equal each other. I've just assumed that you guys might have seen that before. And you get the final answer, 6 root 26. Now, we're already 21 minutes past. I had another question. I think the best thing to do with this is actually do the other question tomorrow, but give you the your turn time. I don't want to rush anyone, and I don't want to stress anyone out and make them feel worried. So I'm not going to overload it today. Here's the question for you. Go down the page. Don't go like me. I ran out of space. You go down the page. Start off by using the midpoint to try and work out A. Then try and work out B by using the gradient. Once you've got A and B, plug it into the distance formula. Here you go. Okay, there's some answers coming in here. I'm proud of you guys. You're getting some answers, okay? Right, let's have a look what I got. And before I go on, even when I do the answer, there's something very important I want to tell you about this question, because I think if I don't say this, we've made it look easier than it actually is. So the first thing I did, let's just reveal down the page. I used the midpoint. I got A as -1. So if you got that, let's try and give ourselves marks out of 6. Let's imagine this is a 6-mark question. So I don't want you to all feel like you didn't get anything, right? If you got A as -1, give yourself 2 marks. So even if you didn't get the full way through, I don't want you to leave this and go, I'm rubbish, I can't do it. If you got A as -1, give yourself 2 marks. If you then went on and got B as -19, give yourself another 2 marks. That's 4 out of 6. Then, if you did manage to finally get the distance, if you got down to the point where you got root 360, give yourself another mark. You got 5 out of 6. If you simplified it and got 6 root 10, you achieved magic status. You got 6 out of 6. So would everyone post in the chat there what they got? Like, no stress. If you got 0, listen, like, it's not a big deal. So tell me what you think you got. Did you get 2, 4, 5, or 6, or 0? And if it's 0, it's 0. I'm not going to, have a go at you. There's no laughing here. We're all trying hard and we're trying to learn. And if learning isn't difficult and it's too easy, you're not learning. Some people got a 6. Moose, wow, some people actually got a 6. Magic status, Freddie Lewin, a 6. For Anshri, well done for getting that 4. That's really good that you got the first 2 bits. Probably just ran out a bit of time. Same with Ilya. Mariam, don't worry, you got 2. I love it. I love the fact that you got 2. Syrian, don't worry, you made a mistake. You can do it after the session. All right? Proud of you guys for saying what you got here. It's not easy, Freddie L. It's not easy. Purposely difficult today. Purposely difficult. Now, can I just say one thing? Please just listen to this bit, because I feel that if a lot of you got 6, you might be a bit overconfident here. We went through this together, and I just told you to do the midpoint first. Trust me, if you had done the gradient first, you could have got the right answer, but it would have been much harder algebra-wise. So I think we've got to be careful here, because I kind of gave it to you and I've modeled it out, and then for you to do it on your own. So I'm really proud of you if you've got 6, but let me just tell you how I did the midpoint first, why I did that. I thought about doing the gradient first and doing, remember, difference in y's. So I do it in my head and I go, oh, that would be 5 take away a over b take away a would be equal to -1/3. But then I think it's got a's and b's in it. I'll never be able to find the answer because it's got a's and b's. So in my head, I quickly thought the midpoint, if I add those up, I get a and b over 2. If I add those up, I get a plus 5 over 2. And I've got it equal to this here. And I thought, you know what? The y's will just have a's in it. And that will help me get A neatly. And then I could go back to the gradient and find the gradient easier and get B. And then I could find out the distance. So it's almost like I read the question carefully and I tried to do it a little bit in my head. And not the final answer, but just to see which one made things a bit easier. And that's what you guys need to start thinking of doing. And ask yourself a true challenging question. Would you have been able to do this without the prompt of me? And sometimes what you do and what I do is try and think a little bit ahead, do the method in my head and go, oh, that's a good place to start. So it's difficult. I think it's one of the hardest questions we've had so far. Nameless says it's one of the best ones. It is. Now, I'm not going to... Look, we're halfway through. I know that Ethan said he wanted to do it. I'll do the next... I'm going to give you the next one, and we're going to give the answers. Mr. Arnold's going to post them, but I don't want to do it because I think we're in a place here. We've done a bit much, and, it's already half an hour. I don't want to go too difficult. We can cover it tomorrow if you need to. So Mr. Arnold's going to give you the question. The question's there, and he's going to show you the answer. And also we've written 3 of the exam standard questions for you, and we've written in the answers. So if Mr. Arnold posts that there, I'm really proud of you guys. Like, share, and subscribe today. Tomorrow we'll talk more about what happens after the first when we're not doing the live lessons on our calendar to support you guys into June and July. Make sure that you're doing lots of work at 2 p.m. every day, even if you're not in school and even if the live lessons end. And I'm really proud of you. I think we did something really tricky today. Some of you did amazing. Some of you got 2 and 4 marks in that last question. That's amazing as well. I'm proud of you, and I'm proud that we worked together. So have a lovely day, and I will sign off now. Mr. Arnold, thanks so much for posting in the channel.